Back at the porch of the Grand Hotel as we continue with our Mackinac moments, talking with some of the political and business leaders here at this year's policy conference, and as it's always good to sit down with senior senator, not senior senator, senator from, I mean, I aged you pretty quickly there, the senator from the state of Michigan, Gary Peters. Senator, it's good to have you back.
Devin, it's great to be with you, and what a pure Michigan day we have.
Sitting on this beautiful sunny porch, it's really terrific.
It's great.
I want to start with where we are right now, with the two hot issues that right now really do threaten to divide us so much. We're awaiting the decision on abortion from the Supreme Court. We just had this horrendous shooting in Uvalde, and it seems to me, Senator, that the two, in fact, in your session, you were just talking about all the things that we actually agree on in America, but we define ourselves often by the things that we don't agree on, and these are two things, abortion and guns, that how do we ever agree on that?
It is incredibly challenging, especially the gun debate right now, and on the heels of two horrific mass shootings in such a short period of time, that if not now, when, to be able to just make some kind of moves. And we're to the point now that we want to see something. Some people would like to see an awful lot happen. Many people would like to see nothing happen. But I think we have to agree that somewhere in the middle is the right place to go. I'm a gun owner. I enjoy hunting. I enjoy pheasant hunting every season. And it's very important for folks here in Michigan, but that doesn't mean we can't do common sense things to protect lives. And I think it's important as we think of this debate related to gun violence, is not just in the focus of the mass shootings, as horrific as those are. And whenever you talk about ways that maybe we could prevent it, people will say, well, maybe it wouldn't work in this case or it wouldn't work in that case. And we have to realize that there is no one answer to this. It's going to take a lot of different approaches. Yeah. But let's put this in context that today, as we're sitting here on this beautiful porch, roughly 100 people will die of gun violence in the country today. Tomorrow, 100 people will die of gun violence again tomorrow, and then the next day. So if we can do some things to save lives, let's do that. And I think we have hope that perhaps when it comes to closing some of the loopholes with the background checks that we have, which is an important check to make sure that folks who clearly shouldn't have weapons aren't able to buy them. And yet now they can go to gun shows, or they can go online and buy weapons and get them. And we know the carnage that has created. We can save lives, and I would hope that this will be the time at least we can show some movement.
We've said this before, and I've said for a long time, if we didn't do anything after Sandy Hook, I'm afraid it's proof that we're not really intent on solving the problem. But are you feeling or sensing some movement? Well, for instance, let's just stay with background checks. The House has sent a bill over that has just been languishing for a long time. Is there any chance that actually gets through?
I always want to be hopeful, and we can't lose hope, but I'm also practical, and I don't know if we could get to the 10 Republicans that we would need in the Senate to get there. We've got a group working on this right now. There are 5 Republicans, so I'm encouraged that we have 5 at least willing to talk. But getting those 5 still won't be enough unless we can work with and convince some others. But I think it's also ultimately those of us who are citizens who vote is to demand that as well, and to show those demands at the ballot box, and that there has to be some accountability for folks, particularly when background checks. This is an issue, let's be clear, that nearly 90% of the American people believe this common sense and should be done. There are not many issues that I deal with in Washington, D.C. that
90% of
anything.
Right,
it's probably nothing,
and
yet this can't happen, including NRA members. I think the last poll I saw said 70% of them think it makes sense. This has to get done, but there needs to be some accountability for folks who are unwilling to even take small steps, but small steps that we know will save lives.
We also know that from the polls, most Americans would like to see Roe versus Wade stay in place. You've been very open in talking about a very painful chapter in your own family's life about experience with abortion. This whole thing must pain you as we draw closer to whatever this decision will be. But again, it's something else that seems to be at odds with where most Americans are.
It is, and I think the court's overstepping. That folks, the majority of people in this country, believe that there should be. This is a very personal issue. This is about freedom. This is about freedom for a woman to make what are the most intensely personal decision that you can possibly make, and that there isn't the government role. And And the court is basically going to be unwinding 50 years of precedent. So there's no question that this will change the politics. And in the past, people who believe that this is a freedom that women should have and is protected always figured that they always had Roe versus Wade to be a fallback, that politicians couldn't take this too far. Now, if the court does indeed overrule Roe v. Wade, politicians can take this too far, and I think there's going to be a big price to pay for those individuals at the ballot box.
Let's move to the issue that the poll just showed us that most Michiganders right now are most concerned about, and that's what's happening with the economy and in particular inflation. It's really, if you believe the old adage that it's the economy when it comes to election time, nobody right now seems to believe that the outlook is for a quick turnaround on what's happening with inflation. The supply chain issues that we have are going to continue for this all would seem to spell real big trouble for you and your party here in a couple of months.
Well, certainly economies don't move quickly. As a Navy guy, the analogy is like an aircraft carrier. You know, you can be at the helm, but it's going to take a lot before it moves. So it could take some time. But clearly, we're making major efforts to help move the economy and get prices down. You mentioned supply chains. Right now, I've been working aggressively to make sure we can have a steady supply of semiconductor chips, which are critically important for the auto industry. Yeah. One of the major reasons we're seeing increases in auto prices, both new and used, is a shortage of chips that are in all of our cars. And as we continue to see advancements in electrifying and autonomous vehicles, the demand for those chips will go up even more. And we have to have secure supply chains here in the United States. You know, in the past, we thought the most efficient way of, or at least I should say some, thought the most efficient way of dealing with the economy was to ship jobs overseas, seek out cheaper labor, foreign markets. Now we're seeing that as a big mistake when you have any kind of hiccup. We may have had efficient supply chains, but they were clearly not resilient. And resilience, if you're not resilient, there's a huge price to pay.
We allowed medicines to, you know, these things that are really, in a way, I guess I would describe that almost as a national security issue at a certain point. The health and well-being of the country. I mean, we really allowed a lot of this to get away from us.
There's no question about it. And actually, back in 2019, I wrote a report through my committee, my oversight committee, on drug shortages that we have in the country. This is in 2019, where our hospitals had to make decisions like, we don't have a drug shortage, what do we do? And their solution was usually a more expensive drug that was less effective. And we were overly dependent. 85% of all the precursors for all the drugs we use in this country come from China. And I concluded in that report, when there is a pandemic, the United States will face a significant problem. We saw that with masks and swabs and everything else. But now we're seeing it throughout the economy from chips and others. We have to source things here locally. And by the way, not only is that great to keep prices down, it's great for American jobs and economic opportunity. And I think this is going to be should be hopefully a sea change in how we look at investing.
Last question, because I know you've got to run to another commitment here. Larry Summers, former White House economic advisor under President Obama, said today that the combination that we have right now, where we see inflation right now, and you see where the unemployment rate is so low, that if we don't raise interest rates by a lot very quickly, we're certainly headed for a recession. What's your outlook on the possibility of a recession?
Well, certainly I think the Federal Reserve was slow to action. I think that's becoming increasingly clear that they should have been ratcheting up those interest rates slowly but surely over time. And what happens when you don't do that, then you have to overreact. Back to an analogy of the aircraft carrier. If you're moving a little bit, you don't think it's moving, then you do it more and more, all of a sudden it turns real sharp. The opposite can occur as well. So it is really important for the Federal Reserve to been on that sooner, and now they're going to have to overreact and perhaps do more. We'll have to obviously watch how things happen on a month-to-month basis.
Sir Gary Peters, always good to talk to you. Thanks very much for the time.
Thank you.
More to come here with our Mackinac Moments from the Grand Hotel.